Well, let's talk about another game that definitely did not have name problems, did not have any visibility problems whatsoever. Nope. That's Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike.
Sean Finnegan, you still play Counter-Strike.
I've been playing Counter-Strike for 15 years. I played the very first Counter-Strike starting in Beta 7. My buddies introduced it to me. My friend, this guy Adam Blair, childhood friend of mine, his dad was a computer programmer, and he had all sorts of games like, you know, great and terrible on his computer, and we would always go over to his house during the summers and play these games. But the one that really caught our attention was Counter-Strike, and I've been playing it ever since. Like, what more can I say about it? It epitomizes what I believe to be like the best thing about video games, and that's gameplay over graphics, right? Like, if you want to create a game that people are going to play for a long time that has staying power, like, you have to make it play really, really, really well instead of look really, really, really
It is
good.
one of the most popular and most played first-person shooters ever. It has given birth to countless imitators and similar type of game, Counter-Strike-ish game modes in other shooters over the years. It started as a Half-Life mod before Valve hired the two men primarily responsible for it and brought them in, Min Lee and Jess Cliff. It is still played today. You know, we went from the mod to 1.6 was sort of the big version. Counter-Strike Source, and now Counter-Strike Go, Global Offensive.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say is from what amazed me about Counter-Strike, and I was never terribly good at it, and I didn't really even play it all that much. But what amazed me about it was that it was my first glimpse at games being something that a community does.
Oh yeah.
Because I got to see it in a very literal way. Like, sure, online gaming was starting to become much more of a thing by this time, but for me, mostly games were a thing I did with a couple of friends, maybe in my room, or it was something honestly I mostly did alone.
Yeah.
But when I worked at Electronics Boutique on the top floor of the mall that I grew up, you know, shopping in and working in, right down the hall on the same floor was like basically a PC cafe.
Yeah.
And where you would go and you would play. It was called X Zone, and you would go there and you would play. You know, you would rent out a game and you'd sit down at one of their stations and you'd play for a set amount of time. And one of my good buddies, Eric, I mean, that was his lifeblood. And I would go on he worked at like a record store and I worked at this game store, and I would go on my lunch break just to watch him play. And it would literally just be him and like 20 other people or 30 other people, not all playing the same game or the same match, but they were all playing.
Yeah.
They were all playing Counter-Strike.
It built on that community foundation that Quake Team Fortress and some of the very early mods had made, and people creating their own content and refining games and making them better. Counter-Strike taught me that I'm bad at video games. It's just about perfect.
It's one of those games that to this day is known for having a very steep learning curve. It's very much like, you know, you gotta practice, you gotta play a lot, and you have to be, it doubles down on the core, what I think core pinnacles of first-person shooters are, which is aim, skill, tactics like positioning and teamwork. Like, there's no perks, there's no loadouts, there's no bonuses, there's no randomization.
No unlockables.
Like, no unlockables, none of that. No progression. It's just, can you shoot that guy faster than he can shoot you? And that's it. And if you can, then you're going to be good, and if you're not, then you're going to be terrible.
And incredibly, it was mostly all about one map for many years, DE Dust.
Yeah. So the map pool was varied, and you had AS maps, which were escort maps, DE maps, which were destructible maps, like you explode a bomb. Other ones, CS, which were like hostage maps. When they released Dust, which was the first one kind of set in the Middle East, which was like this sort of, the color palette was totally different. It was big and wide open. It changed everything. People thought that this was the coolest map ever, and they played that map. There were servers dedicated to just Dust, 24/7 Dust all the time, and that's what people played. It was super cool.